if you only revert to using tourniquets, whether it's in your kit or in your education program, you're limiting yourself to areas where a tourniquet can be applied. So if you think about it, that's just your 4 extremities. Wound packing is designed for a few things. One is in areas that are uncontrolled hemorrhage that are above areas where you can't put a tourniquet. So example, we put wound packing, or we do wound packing in junctional areas such as your neck area, your shoulder and your armpit axillate area, and then in your groin. Think about it, you can't reach a tourniquet into that area, both on your arms and your groin. So those are areas that are perfect for wound packing, and we're specifically talking about major hemorrhage. So wound packing can be done with regular gauze that's not impregnated with hemostatic agent, or it can be done with hemostatic agent. We prefer the quick clot. It's an inert mineral that allows the internal body's own clotting cascade to speed up about 5 times. So we're talking about 1 to 3 minutes of direct pressure to accelerate that clotting. Now, none of these work if you don't do it correctly. The principle of wound packing is to create pressure in that cavity. That is, in essence, it's putting direct pressure on that wound from inside that cavity. You can have the greatest science and the greatest technology in the material that's causing the hemostatic, but if you're not performing it correctly, it's irrelevant. So let's take a look. This right here is the TrueClot trainer. We'll create some blood to come out of it here in a second. This is to simulate a wound in a thigh, for example. If I put my finger in there, which I will in a second, there's a bone in there, we'll feel that. And the goal is to fill this cavity and create pressure in there to not allow the hemorrhage to continue. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this quick clot trainer here. This is designed just like the regular ones they use, the combat gauze. When you open it up, I want you to make note that I'm not throwing it on the ground. You'll see a lot of people like throw it over their shoulder and so forth. The goal is to keep this clean and sterile as much as possible. It's going into a cavity. So I'm holding it in my hand. The next thing I'm going to do, and I'm doing this obviously slow motion now to show the teaching points, is I'm going to create a little ball here, because this ball is where I want to focus that material on one spot to create more of a larger mass on the one spot that I feel is where that bleeding is coming from. So now I'll have you focus down here to the injury site. As I put my finger in, the goal is for me to kind of locate where that pulsating vessel is, and I'll feel it by actual pulsating, and it'll be warm blood that's I'm gonna feel on my finger. So for the purpose of this, let's just say I felt it on the top right corner. So I marked that spot, and now I have that ball I made, and I'm gonna, there's 2 techniques. I'm gonna slide it underneath my finger and leave it right there and put pressure on it. If that ball is not touching the area that's bleeding, this is worthless. So it has to be touching it. Now, I'm now gonna take some more and continue to feed it underneath this finger and kind of use this finger as a guide. This is a huge cavity, so you'll see we'll have to take quite a bit of material. Now that I got enough of it over the bleeding site, my goal is to create pressure in this whole cavity. So how do I do that? I'm gonna take more material and go to another corner. So now I went to the bottom left. And now I'm gonna take some more material and go to the top right. And then go to the bottom left. And then come back to the site itself. Now the other technique is to switch fingers. So I'll do it now where you see that I'm switching fingers. I'm now, my left finger which started is out, and now I can take more of this and stuff more in there in a strategic way that it's not just stuffing it, but it's putting it in areas that are creating the pressure on this cavity. So I'm gonna be basically switching fingers like this and filling this cavity up in all directions. So as you can see, I go left, I go top right, bottom left, top left, and I'm slowly filling this cavity and creating pressure. It's all about the pressure in this. This gauze, if you just stuff it in there with no pressure, all it will do is absorb and not create the pressure. The goal is not to absorb the blood, the goal is to create pressure in this cavity. So I'm almost to the point where I cannot put any more inside. The other thing now I can do is take the excess and leave it on top, and now I'd put direct pressure for 1 to 3 minutes and finish it off with a pressure dressing. I can wrap it with any type of device that will create pressure. It can be a simple ACE bandage, it could be a SWAT tee to put a lot of pressure on it, or it could be just a pressure dressing. If I just leave it here though and walk away, it's going to eventually loosen up. So I want to put pressure on it. Now, just to test to see if it worked, we'll give this some pressure here. I'll go at all to kind of corners to see, give it a second to see if it's actually leaking around it, and I don't see any blood coming around it. So that's a success. So again, where do we put this? This is in the junctional areas. So this is going to be in your neck area, it's going to be in your shoulder and armpit areas, and in your groin. This is wound packing. Again, if you do not have a hemostatic agent, that's fine. Just know that with the non-hemostatic agents, it will take about 10 to 15 minutes of that direct pressure. If you have a hemostatic agent, there's definitely evidence that's showing faster success rates, especially if you can get it on the source of bleeding. We get asked a lot, why don't I pack an abdomen? Why don't I pack the chest? Imagine how hard it would be to find the exact vessel through that cavity, through just going from the outside of the skin to find a cavity that's bleeding inside the vessel. Almost impossible. So that's why we don't pack those. We put chest seals on those. If you have any questions, let us know. But this is wound packing, and we appreciate you watching. And remember, let's save lives together.